All right, the Atlanta Falcons have benched Kirk Cousins, and now it is Michael Penix's time. Make sure we're live here. We are live. We are live. Yes, we are live. All right, the Atlanta Falcons benched Kirk Cousins, and now it is Michael Penix's time. So we're going to break everything down. This was announced last night, but I've been working all day with tomorrow's video, so I just wanted to, have it digest a little bit and then really be able to think and really be able to break everything down. So I'm just going to go ahead and tweet out the link real quick that we are live discussing the reaction to the Falcons benching Kirk Cousins. What's up? How we doing? First says Chicken Nuggets, good username by the way. I'm doing good. How are you, K-Dot? I'm doing well. I'm doing well this evening. Let's go ahead, and I'm not sure why the link is not popping up, but I do appreciate everyone being in here. Already a good stream. Appreciate it, Justin. Appreciate it. Vikings taking the division. I mean, as you guys know, this will eventually be like a Q&A, so we will discuss that in a second. But for now, we are okay. So I can't find the link. That's fine. We're just gonna keep going here. Where should Cousins go? Well, we're actually going to break all of that down. So I actually just want to be able to just go ahead, and I want to have everything pulled up contract-wise. But Justin Ziegler, does Kirk get cut next year and Falcons just eat the dead cap? So we are going to break everything down. Let's go. I want to read this comment here because this is pretty cool. Hey, man, just thought I'd let you know you're part of the day as a mechanic. Love listening to your vids while I wrench. Keep it up. Appreciate it. And, I mean, hey, man, I'm glad that I'm part of your day, and that's awesome. That's actually really humbling. So glad to hear that. But let's go ahead and break this down now. So the Falcons obviously gave Kirk a 4-year, $180 million contract. Now, what needs to be remembered within the $180 million contract is the last 2 years were fluff. They really don't mean anything. The last 2 years, Kirk was scheduled to have cap hits of, let me just pull up Kirk Cousins' contract directly. I want to say Kirk was scheduled to have cap hits of like $57.5 million. And obviously they drafted Michael Penix for a reason. They knew that whenever Kirk was going to be, 38, 39, he was not going to play with, cap hits of $57.5 million. So right now we're on Spot Track. His cap hit right now is $25 million. This year his cap hit next year is $40 million. And the Falcons are in a pretty tough situation because Kirk, let's just call it what it is. Like, Kirk is a much better player than a lot of other, what we would probably consider bad quarterbacks around the NFL. Think like Andy Dalton, Daniel Jones, who was just cut from the Giants. Kirk is a lot better than those guys. But this situation is pretty unique, obviously, because they drafted Michael Penix number 8 overall, and Kirk has had one of the worst 5-game stretches of any point in his career. And with Kirk now, I do want to just go ahead and just look at the 2025 Falcons cap space, because what I worried about with the Falcons whenever not just the Penix pick was made, but what I really worry about now is we're at a point where, do we really think Raheem Morris is the right head coach for Michael Penix during his rookie window? Because I personally don't. The Falcons right now only have $6 million in 2025. That is all they have. Now, they can obviously cut and maneuver guys around, but we made a video on this a couple of weeks ago, and I have a lot of bad takes. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of takes that age terribly, but I worry about that they're going to have to cut a lot of guys, or cut or maneuver around a lot of guys, like Caleb McGarry, Grady Jarrett, I think will be a cap casualty. Right now, the Falcons can save $16 million by cutting Grady Jarrett, and at this point in his career, that's probably what the reality is going to be. So they'll probably cut Grady Jarrett next year to free up some cap space, which that would put him up to $22 million. They will probably also designate a couple of guys as post-June 1st cuts, but Grady Jarrett's the big one. Grady Jarrett is the player that I ultimately think will be cut to save money, but they can't cut Kirk Cousins. That is not going to happen. I don't think they're going to eat however many millions of dollars, and I really think that Kirk is going to be a Falcon in 2025. Let's see here. There was somebody that I saw a comment here. Where was it? Somebody said, okay, Tom Grassi and Perna streams to help distract me. But hey, this helps. Hey, I'm glad to be here, Trevor. Glad to be here. Anxiety is the worst. That is definitely no laughing matter. So glad to be here. Glad to help take your mind off that. But that's what I think, is I think Kirk is going to be a Falcon in 2025. I just don't think there's a reality where they cut Kirk and where they say, hey, we're going to eat this dead cap hit next year just to get him off the books. I also think there's a possibility, by the way, that there's a chance that a team, and I'm just throwing this out here for example, but think of a team like the Tennessee Titans, who are in a pretty bad situation right now with Will Levis, who really have no direction. They could trade for Kirk, and the cost would be extremely cheap because they would eat all of the money. So there's a possibility there. I don't know how Titans fans feel about that, but I mean, I don't think Kirk right now would be worse than what Will Levis has been this year. But I just don't see a reality where the Falcons just straight up cut Kirk Cousins. And keep in mind, Kirk has the no trade clause, so Kirk would also have to agree to go to Nashville. It's not just as simple as, hey, let's trade, Kirk and a 5th round pick to a team for a 7th round pick just to get him off the books and trade him to a situation like the Giants. I don't think Kirk would want to go to the Big Apple at this point in his career, and quite frankly, I wouldn't blame him. So there's a lot more to it than just, hey, let's just trade Kirk Cousins. Let's just get him off the books. I expect the Titans to sign Sam Darnold in free agency. Are they going to be able to afford him? Because there's a lot of teams right now that need quarterbacks. And I do want to pull up Tankathon because there's going to be Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward that go in the first round in terms of the NFL draft. And the thing is this Kirk Cousins benching affects the NFL draft because there's going to be more than 2 teams that need a quarterback in the NFL draft. So if we go to Tankathon and if we go to the actual draft order right now, the Browns need a quarterback. The Jets, I would also say, need a quarterback. The Titans need a quarterback. The Saints, I would personally say, need a quarterback. So there's 4 teams right there in the top 10, not including the Raiders and Giants. Now, the Saints are going to be out not on Derek Carr. They're going to be out on Kirk Cousins because of the Derek Carr contract. And I also don't think the Falcons would trade in division. But if you go a little further down the road, or further down the board, I think you could make an argument that Indy may need a quarterback. I don't think they're going to take one just because I don't think they're going to reach for a quarterback when they already have Anthony Richardson. There's a lot of teams here. There's at least probably 6 or 7 teams that need a quarterback this year. And I'm curious to see what you guys think here. You Tree, what's up, man? What's up? That's awesome. I'm glad you're in here, dude. Will it hurt when they put the Penix in? Asks. That's first off, glad you're in here, man. And it'll probably hurt Kirk Cousins when they put the Penix in. It'll probably hurt Kirk deeply, might I add. It'll probably, let me think how to word this. It'll cut him deep. It'll cut him deep. It'll stab Kirk deep when they put the Penix in. That's probably how I would answer that one. But let's see here. I mean, Kirk is a good mentor to Penix just due to him being a veteran, even if he's not that great at this point. That is true. It's obviously a very, very hefty price tag at this point. No tweet. I couldn't tweet out. Let me see if I can tweet the link out now. It wouldn't let me tweet out earlier, but I don't see a reality where the Falcons cut Kirk Cousins because there's no chance. I mean, like if they cut Kirk Cousins next year, that puts a lot of stress financially on the GM in terms of what they're going to do. I mean, that puts them at nearly $20 million in the red before any other action takes place because he has such a large cap. And now, the big thing that has to be remembered with Kirk is it was always going to be a 2-year contract. It was always going to be a 2-year contract. That's the thing. It was never going to be a 4-year contract, and that's what has to be remembered with this deal. But cutting Cousins would get Morris fired. I don't know, man. Let's see. Love the channel, bro. Will your Vikes keep Sam? Great question, Rich. Appreciate the super chat. I'm going back and forth on that. Right now, we're sitting here. It is December 18th. It's a week before Christmas. Right now, I think it largely depends on how the team performs in the playoffs because we've already clinched. We control our destiny at this point. And I would say, I know that's not the answer you're looking for. Definitely not the answer you're looking for. I would say right now, we probably keep Sam for 1 year. That would be my guess. That would be my guess to keep Sam for 1 year. I think JJ McCarthy, JJ is only 21 years old. He would be 23 in 2026, presumably when he would take over. And I think when you look at a team like the Green Bay Packers, what they did with Jordan Love, obviously at this point, I fully, completely trust Kevin O'Connell. I think we would be fine regardless. So I think that the team would keep him for 1 year now. Aller staying at Penn State for 2025 further thins the quarterback class. Great point, Nick, and you're right. And that also plays into the Kirk Cousins situation. The Kirk Cousins situation is just one domino in a lot of dominoes, in a lot of just teams that need quarterbacks. Because, like we said, Shedeur and Cam Ward are probably going to go in the top 5, maybe even both go 1-2. Not sure the order. The order right now is irrelevant, but you have at least 5 other quarterback needy teams: Tennessee, Cleveland, the Jets, the Saints, and I think you can make an argument for the Colts. But are the Falcons going to keep a $40 million? Well, his cap at next year over the cap. His cap at next year is $40 million. Are you going to keep a $40 million backup and then keep Raheem Morris? So I think right now they are, because I don't think they can afford to cut him. That's where I stand on that. Red Hood says, do I think Jalen will cost the Eagles a Super Bowl? I do not personally. They already made it to the Super Bowl. So I think they'll be fine. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the problem at all. Happy you're streaming, man. Surprised to see you live. Now, appreciate you being here. Now, I did post to the community tab earlier that we'd be live to discuss the Kirk situation, but I'm in the boat right now that I think they keep him, simply because I don't think there's a reality where they trade him. And the only other reality where I would see the Falcons could possibly trade Kirk is if there is a situation that is very drastic, that we would not know until August of 2025, it would have to be a situation similar to Teddy Bridgewater in 2016, and that's just the one that I go back to, where it was drastic, where a team had a starting quarterback go down, snap of a finger right before the season starts. Your season is over if you don't make a move, and the Vikings traded a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. Now, there's no chance after this year, especially with a 37-year-old Kirk Cousins, that they would get a first-round pick for Kirk, but that's the only other chance that I see that Kirk would actually be moved, because I simply don't think the Falcons are going to cut him and take that ginormous of a cap hit. I'd be surprised. All right, let's see here. Listen, man, I'm just saying that the Titans take Milroe. I do not want the Titans to take Jalen Milroe. I feel like that would be a bad fit. That would be a bad situation. I would hate that for both sides. I've been good, AK. How have you been? Sam Darnold, you are a New York Jet. Week 16 preview will be out Friday. Week 16 preview will be out Friday. Honestly, swap Falcons and Jets old quarterbacks and see what happens. I know it's a joke, obviously, but I just don't think Kirk would have any interest in going to the Big Apple. That's where I stand on that. Sam, appreciate the super chat. First super chat. Everyone send a super chat. This man is dialed. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but no, I do appreciate it. Thoughts on Geno for the Seahawks long-term, seeing how out there was awful. So, great question. That's from user Legion of Boom. So, safe to infer that Legion of Boom is, in fact, a Seahawks fan. But I think the Seahawks are potentially in a tough situation, because in some ways, I think they're going to remind me of the Steelers here in a year or two. And that's not the worst thing to happen. Let's just go ahead and clear the air. That's not the worst thing to happen. But when you look at the Steelers, they never pick in the top 10, never pick in the top 15, because they always have a winning record. And I think the Seahawks are borderline going to be in that situation, especially with Mike Macdonald. I really like Mike Macdonald, and I think it's as the season has progressed, we've seen the team get better and better. Now, I'm kind of excluding the Packers game within that. Sam Howell was a clear liability, and there's not a lot of teams that would win games with a backup quarterback. So kind of, take that dismiss that, if you will. But the Seahawks are probably going to stick it out with Geno until the wheels fall off, because what realistically are they going to do? That's kind of where I stand on that. Unless they take a chance on a Sam Darnold type player, which I think would probably be like a Will Levis, or like just a player that is Drew Lock, for example. They already did that experiment though. But you get what I'm saying. So I think they're going to keep Geno for a little bit. Maybe draft a quarterback in 2026. But at that point, they'd probably have to trade up, because again, they're not going to be a 4-13 team ever under Mike Macdonald. So the Seahawks are in a bit of a tough situation. Let's see here. Do I think BTJ has a chance at Offensive Rookie of the Year? Good question. I am a huge BTJ fan. Believe it or not, I only have 2 non-Vikings jerseys ever. One is a Justin Herbert jersey. One is a Brian Thomas Jr. Big Brian Thomas Jr. fan. And sorry, to answer your question, I thought that was not relevant to the story or relevant to the question. I don't think he is, mainly because it's a quarterback award, and the Commanders are probably going to make the playoffs. Jaden Daniels exceeded every expectation by a large margin, and again, generally it is a quarterback award, and if the Commanders make the playoffs in Jaden Daniels' rookie year, I think that's who would win the Rookie of the Year. Let's see here. Draft Carson Beck. I am not a Carson Beck guy at all. I don't think he is good. I think there's a lot wrong with his game. Thoughts on my Raiders' future? Could Shador and Bowers dominate? Can Vrabel be a good head coach? Vrabel can absolutely be a good head coach. He would be a great candidate for the Raiders. The Raiders are just in a bad situation right now because they are in a division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes for starters, and they're also in a division with Sean Payton, and Bo Nix has looked promising at times. So the Raiders are in one of the worst situations that there is. For anybody just joining, if you are looking for the Michael Penix part specifically, or the Kirk Cousins part specifically, I just think they're going to keep him. I don't think there's a reality where a team trades for Kirk Cousins, because why would they? And not only that, but Kirk also has to accept that because he has a no trade clause. So Kirk Cousins' agent, credit to him. Quarter zip legend. I saw that tweet somebody had today. Awesome tweet. I forget who I would credit, but I forget who said that. But he's a legend, man. He's made Kirk over $300 million for one career playoff win. Kirk has played terrible over the past 5 games. The Falcons season is very much on the line. Good for them for going with Michael Penix at this point. And I hope Michael Penix plays well, and I like Michael Penix a lot. And I think he is going to be a very good quarterback, and I think he is in a really, really good situation for him. Now, there's a good receiver. By the way, I do have one hot take. I do think Kyle Pitts, there's still something there. I just refuse to believe that a 21-year-old rookie tight end goes for 1,000 yards. Second rookie tight end in the history of the NFL to go for 1,000 yards. The other was Mike Ditka back in 1961. I know Brock Bowers will soon be a part of that. But I refuse to believe that he's just done, that he's just washed. So I think there's still something there with Kyle Pitts. But Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, Bijan, Tyler Algier. Somebody had a good question here about Caleb McGarry blocking for, here it is, your fave. Caleb McGarry guarding Penix's blindside. Overall, I think the Falcons' offensive line is fine. Penix is more athletic than people give him credit for, so I think he'll be fine. I like Michael Penix a lot. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this era plays. Appreciate the super chat. Let's see here. Great to see you, man. Amarius Mims looks locked down. So Amarius was always an interesting prospect, just because Amarius only had a couple of starts during his time at Georgia. But obviously, I mean, there's not a lot of players and human beings, forget players. There's not a lot of human beings built like Amarius Mims to begin with. But whenever you see that type of potential, there's almost always going to be, he's almost always going to go in the first round because the type of upside there is just incredible. And Amarius has played better as the seasons went on, which is big. And I'm happy to see that for Amarius. And I think he will. I mean, Amarius is only 22 years old. So I like Amarius a lot. And I think he's shown flashes in his rookie year. And that's the big thing, 21 going in 22. He turned 22 in October. So for him to show flashes in his rookie year, I really like Amarius' future with the Bengals. And I think he is going to be a good player for them. And appreciate the super chat, Will. Judge Judy, good username here. On the Heisman, shouldn't the award go to the number 1 player, not a guy because he was the 5th best? Okay, so here we go. Appreciate the super chat, by the way. First super chat, appreciate it. And I personally would have voted for Travis Hunter for the Heisman. I get what you're saying. I completely respect what you're saying. Super chats are heating up. Definitely appreciate that. But no, I definitely respect what you're saying. I personally would have won with the Travis Hunter side because I just think that his season was more historic in the grand scheme of things. Although if you vote Ashton Genty for Heisman, I wouldn't be like, you're wrong, you're an idiot, that's just a bad take. I would never say that. I completely respect that take. And there's a reason that it was the closest Heisman either ever or one of the top 2 or 3 ever. There's a reason for that. I don't think there was a wrong answer, but I personally would have voted for Travis Hunter because you're never going to see a season like Travis Hunter again. And this is going to downplay Ashton Genty, and I really don't mean to, but we've seen guys like Melvin Gordon have those types of seasons before, and they are incredible seasons. But when you play both ways, when you play nearly 2,000 snaps over the course of a season, when you are a top 5 receiver in the country and you could legitimately go in the top 10 at either position in the NFL, I mean, that is a all-time historic season. Zach, appreciate the super chat. Titans fan here. We have a diamond in the rough with Jarvis Brownlee Jr. I'm not sure if that's a question. I don't think it is. There's no question mark, although I do agree with what you're saying and appreciate the 10th super chat. Appreciate it. And I do agree with that. I like Jarvis Brownlee. He's been a bright spot for what has been not a great team or not a great results for the 2024 Titans. Now, the Titan situation frustrates me for a couple of reasons because I really don't know what their answer is. Because there's times when I watch the Tennessee Titans, they are very undisciplined and they frustrate me because it's simple things that they do that they shouldn't do, and they make stupid penalties. The special teams, of course, as you know, as a Titans fan, is just abysmal. But I don't know if you look at this team and if you look at this coaching staff and say, okay, well, we have this coaching staff, we have Brian Callahan as the team's head coach. Is Brian Callahan going to ever lead us to a, not Super Bowl, because that's extremely drastic, and I don't think the answer is yes to that, but I would also answer that with a lot of head coaches. But is Brian Callahan going to lead us to consistent playoff success, consistently getting to the playoffs? And when you look at their offseason, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, and I think there's a real chance that the Titans are going to be in a difficult situation entering 2025, and then there's a real chance that they finish maybe 6-11, 7-10 next year, and then I think you enter the 2026 season with a head coach on the hot seat, and for that matter, a general manager on the hot seat because they haven't won enough games. So the Titans' future concerns me, but I do agree, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., definite diamond in the rough. Let's see here. Let's see. The Garf, appreciate the super chat. Nice username. PFF recently said the Jags have a large disparity between talent and record. I actually agree with that a lot. Outside of needs in the secondary, I think a mind like Cohen turns it around fast. Also, BTJ does tons of signings. Get one. We'll see about BTJ about that. I wouldn't mind actually adding something like signed by BTJ back here. I have the Jefferson jersey signed over here. But we will. I mean, I've said that a lot with the Jags recently. It's the Jags roster is not bad. The coaching is not. The coaching is tough. It's frustrating how underperforming the Jags have been in 2024. Now with the outside of needs in the secondary, I think like a mind like Cohen turns it around fast. I would agree with that. The interior offensive line with Brandon Scherf aging and then all that, and then Christian Kirk, and then Gabe Davis. I was never a fan of that signing, but those are, I mean, that's nitpicking. But again, I think they can easily be an 8 or 9 win team next year, when this year they're not, and Trevor is done for the year. But I would agree with that. BTJ, like I said, love him. He's just an animal, man. He is an animal. Good call, Nick. Fair warning: YouTube is flagging all instances of the word Penix. Definitely not saying a word that is very close to Penix. Definitely not very close. We're not saying the word close to Penix, although the X and the S are close to each other on the keyboard, but we are not saying a different word. So definitely wanted to clear that up. But with Michael Penix, and ultimately the title of the stream, what's next for the Falcons is he's the guy. I liked Penix a lot coming out of Washington. I thought there was a good chance that he was going to play for the Vikings for a while, and anytime I feel like there's a prospect that could go to your favorite team, I feel like you are already doing research if you are a draft analyst and if you are into the NFL draft. But whenever there's a real chance that a prospect could go to your team, you're definitely doing what can we, what else can I figure out about this prospect? And I was all into Michael Penix. I thought he was a great prospect coming out of Washington. I was shocked by the selection at the time. And it was kind of like what are they doing? Because I would have preferred the Falcons at that point to draft Rome Odunze, because, you could have Drake London, you could have Darnell Mooney, you could have Rome Odunze, Kyle Pitts, Bijan, Kirk presumably would have been fine. And Kirk was playing at an MVP level last year. So it was a little different from, where we were 8 months ago and in terms of where we are now. So credit the Falcons for drafting Michael Penix. And in, 4 straight years, they went offense. They went Pitts, London, Bijan, and now Penix. So credit to the Falcons front office, honestly. And that's not sarcastic at all. Let's see here. Who was wide receiver you, Bama, OSU, or LSU in your opinion? Good question. Oh man, that's tough. I do want to, and I'm going with current here, so I'm not going to say I'm not going to say Chris Carter for Ohio State, who's been in the Hall of Fame for over a decade and who played back in the 80s and 90s, or like Paul Warfield, who played like back in the 1960s. We're going like this era, just to be clear. I would probably say, man, I feel like you know what, I'm going to go LSU. I'm going to go LSU because of the new era with Neighbors and Thomas. I think that's Neighbors and Thomas. I think, especially Thomas, I think could be a legit top. Well, Neighbors too. I mean, we there's a legit chance that we could have 4 next year, assuming Malik Neighbors actually has a quarterback, that we could have 4 top 7 LSU receivers in the NFL. So I would go LSU. Bama right now, Smitty, Waddle, who else? Judy is really finally coming into his own. I really love Judy coming out of Bama back in 2020. I will say this is definitely going to be a little bit of I would love to make a video on this, but I'm not ever going to make a video on this, although I'd like to. But I think one of the biggest what ifs in NFL history in terms of the domino effects are, what if the Henry Ruggs incident never happened? Because I think there's a chance that Davante Adams does not go to the Raiders, and I think there's a chance that he goes to the Ravens, and I think there's a chance that 2022 and 23, and even this year, that Davante Adams would have been on the Ravens. And I think there's a chance that, Davante Adams, maybe Zay Flowers learning from Davante Adams. That's one of the biggest dominoes, I think, that like I said, I'm not going to put a video out about that, but that's one that I've always had thoughts about, just the dominoes in terms of what could have happened. Let's see here. Appreciate the super chat from Legion of Boom. First super chat, appreciate it. Hey man, a video of your power rankings would be sick. I think it'd be cool to see at this point. If the season, love your takes. So I'd love to do a power rankings video. I'll just be honest, it's just the manpower. I would want to spend at least a minute on every single team for at least a 32-minute power rankings. But editing is a lot. I'm not complaining. I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I do, and I'm very appreciative of everybody being in here. Just acknowledging that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but we'll see. Definitely something in the future that we will keep an eye on. We'll see though. Not this season, but maybe next season. Let's see here. Rich, appreciate the super chat. Your realistic Super Bowl contenders. Right now, if I had to say Super Bowl contenders, like teams that I think can actually win the Super Bowl, I would say there's probably 4. Oh, man. No. Let me think. Because you could convince me right now. I know their record's not the best, but you could legitimately convince me that the Rams could win the Super Bowl. And I know they got smoked by Philly, but I think the Rams could win. So, we'll go, of course, Philly, Minnesota. I still think Detroit's offense can compete with anybody. And even if their defense can make just 2 stops a game, then I still think the Lions are a Super Bowl contender. I know they've had countless injury after injury, and I acknowledge that, but I still think Detroit can get there, especially if they control the clock, they milk the clock, they hold a team once or twice. They can. Will they? Probably not, but I think they can. And then the Rams, but the Bucs are a team nobody's going to want to play. I mean, the Bucs are on another. I mean, they were on another level against the Chargers. So the Bucs are they deserve to be up there. Those 5 in the NFC. Did I say the Rams? If in those 5 is who I would include from the NFC. From the AFC, I'm not going to not say Kansas City. I think that would be idiotic not to. Buffalo, of course, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. After that, those 4. So out of those 9 teams, if I had to limit it down to 7, I would probably eliminate the Rams from that. I'd probably eliminate the Bucs from that because they'd have 2 road playoff games. So that's who I would go. And then Pittsburgh would probably be next. Multiple road playoff games. That's probably where I'd go after that. All right. Let's see here. JSN is that guy not talked about enough. I agree. JSN. What's funny is when Garrett Wilson and Olave were in school, there was always a question about, hey, who's the best between you guys? And Wilson and Olave regularly said, like, hey, like, we're good. First round picks, both selected in the top 16 of the 2022 draft. We're good, but Jackson Smith-Njigba is better than us. And then, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. and soon Emeka Egbuka. I can't wait for Emeka Egbuka. Emeka is a player I love. I love Emeka Egbuka. Let's see here. All right. Curious as to what your thoughts are. Let's see here. Holiday remix with 4 teams being forced to play twice in 4 days. Look, I have been I'm not a fan of it. I'm also not a fan of I'll be honest, it drives me up the wall. It drives me up the wall whenever you see teams play on Sunday. This happened to the Steelers a couple weeks ago. They play the Ravens of all teams. Steelers, Ravens, and I live in Maryland. I think that is worth noting. But I will say that the Steelers and Ravens is the best rivalry in all of football. It was not fair to the Steelers to play the Browns on Thursday night 4 days later. Now, I don't want to hear they get paid millions of dollars, whatever, shut up, buddy, go put pads on. I don't want to hear that. In terms of body physically recovering, whether you are paid $1, whether you are paid $55 million, your body is not, there's no way the Steelers entered that game against the Browns at 100%. So to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of the 2 teams in 4 days. I'm not, especially this late in the year. And I know, I'll just leave it at that. Daniel, appreciate the super chat. Daniel is a member. Also appreciate you being a member, Daniel. And we have a members chat coming up. No Green Bay is crazy. I had Green Bay. Did I not include Green Bay? I meant to include Green Bay. If I did not, sorry. Apologies, Packers fans. I meant to include Green Bay. I had him in my head. Didn't say it. I had him in my head. Did not say it. Apologies for that. No, Green Bay is a very, very good team. That ground game right now, especially with if you get Jordan Love not making the Jordan Love plays, think the Rams pick 6, for example. I did not intentionally leave out Green Bay. I knew I was going to forget one. That was who I forgot. Apologies. Green Bay can beat anybody. And there's a reason their 4 losses are to the Lions, the Vikings, and Eagles, and the Lions twice. But there's a reason, because they are a good team. Like, teams do not beat them. Let's see here. All right, so the Panthers re-sign, let's see, undrafted Jaden Sheridan, undrafted running back that we waived in the summer. Just a thought with injuries they have. Yes, 100%. At minimum, sign him to a futures contract. I mean, anytime you can have a player that is as a UDFA, that was in your system, that was in you're already in your building. I would assume a hard worker if he was a UDFA that was waived. I mean, most UDFAs are not hard workers. I can't speak on that. I was not in the Panthers building, but yes, it's anytime you need depth, especially with the Jonathan Brooks injury. Yes. Let's see here. I'm gonna pay you $5 to fix the 4 frames in your background and make them even. I appreciate that. Besides the Browns, are the Saints in the world? Okay, hold on. Which? I see here. We have this one. I think is that it? Is that good? I think we're good. I think we're good after that. I think that was it. Let's see here. All right. Are the Saints in the worst position in the NFL? Man, I really think the Titans are in a bad position because of what could go wrong. I am a firm believer right now that I think the Titans are in the worst position because if you think about it, their head coach could head into 2025 already with a bad record. The team is not great. They probably aren't going to make the playoffs next year. And then you head into 2026 with a head coach on the hot seat, a general manager on the hot seat. And then what are they going to do in 2026? Draft a first-round quarterback, because they're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round this year, because they're probably not going to trade 3 first-round picks to go up and trade for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So I think whenever you actually project it out, I do think the Titans are in the worst situation. That's just me, though. That's just where I stand on that. Let's see here. Haircut from the side looks good. I appreciate it. Shout out my barber. Shout out my barber. I do appreciate that. As a Seahawks fan, should we trade Geno away and bring in Sam Darnold? His red zone picks are killing us. Geno's red zone picks have been incredibly frustrating. I do agree with that. So Sam Darnold, let me actually pull up the Seahawks cap situation, by the way, because I don't know it off the top of my head. I actually have let me pull it up, because I haven't looked at the Seahawks cap situation. So let's go ahead and pull this up here. The Seahawks in 2025 this is cap space here. I'm doing a bad job here. Let's just keep going. I'll get back to this. Just give me 1 second. My predictions for the Ravens-Steelers game, I'm going with the Ravens. I am going with the Ravens here to win that one. I think the Ravens are going to win. Steelers, no George Pickens. That is incredibly tough to go into Baltimore and win. I know Lamar has had his troubles against the Steelers, but I think they are going to win. The Ravens are going to win. So the Seahawks right now are $6 million in the red. For 2025, let's see here some of the guys. Who can they cut to save a lot of money? They can cut Noah Fant and save $9 million. That'll be an easy decision there. They will see here. They can save $25 million by cutting Geno. I don't think they would do that. The Seahawks are in an interesting situation. Tyler Lockett, of course, has a terrible contract, at least for, what he is at this point. He's getting paid $30 million next year, and DK Metcalf is also getting paid $30 million. So the Seahawks are actually in a pretty desperate situation. I don't think the Seahawks can bring in Sam Darnold. I really don't. That's actually a pretty bad situation, financially speaking. But Titans pick up Kirk. That would be my guess. That would be my guess at this point, that the Seahawks the Titans pick up Kirk, because what else are they going to do? Kirk Cousins probably gets traded to the Browns. Don't think that would happen. I mean, they still have I know he's injured, but they still have the $230 million elephant in the room. I don't know if Kirk would want to go there. Not because of Deshaun, but it's just not a great situation. The Browns are going to have to replace a lot of offensive linemen this year due to age and contracts. I don't know if Kirk would want to go to Cleveland. We'll see. But that's the thing. I think Kirk would go to, I think he would go to Nashville. I do think that. Darnold is going to be minimum $35 million. I would say even higher. Who is my dark horse MVP candidate? So right now, I think the sports books have like Josh Allen as the favorite by far. Which I don't think I think he will win, but I don't think it should be as drastic as what the sportsbook have right now. My dark horse would probably be Sam Darnold. Just the fact that you can win 13 games, 14 games, maybe even get the number 1 seed, and he'll probably end up throwing for 35 touchdowns. Right now he's at 29. So I'd probably say Sam Darnold with Sam Darnold 34, 35 touchdowns with 14 wins. That would be, that's really good. I would say that's a dark horse there. Sam Darnold is, what's up, Charlotte? Sam Darnold is getting $55 million minimum. I don't think that. Just because that would be a lot. I mean, that's a job on the line for Sam Darnold. And Sam's obviously played great, but you have to have a great coach. You have to have a great supporting staff. I mean, just basic things. You can't say to the Sam entering the Titan situation and say, hey, Sam, here's a 2-year, $110 million contract, fully guaranteed. Fix us. So I don't think 55. I think 45 is probably where I would say. And if you guys are enjoying, by the way, please drop a like. Helps the stream tremendously. We're closing in on 100 on the streams. Hopefully you guys are enjoying, and I know I'm enjoying, and I love enjoying talking ball. And we're almost 37 minutes into the stream, and I feel like I've been up here for just like 4 or 5 minutes just chatting away. Do I think Saquon can win MVP? Not at this point. I don't, unless he, let me caveat, unless he breaks the rushing record and the Birds get the number 1 seed, which could happen, but I would be pretty surprised. I think it would have to be pretty drastic for Saquon to win the MVP. One Christmas like given. Appreciate it. Christmas 1 week from today. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Man, this makes Baker's deal seem even crazier. Yeah, the Bucs got to steal with Baker. The Bucs absolutely got to steal with Baker. And good for the Bucs. I mean, good for both. I mean, Baker walks away with $100 million. He walks away with competing. Probably going to win the division this year. And the Bucs have a good quarterback. Let's see here. This is a great comment. I'm 5'4", 400 pounds, torn ACL. Can I make it in the league? Buddy, you better be able to kick the football. I'll just say that. You better be able, great comment, by the way. You better be able to at least have enough mobility to where you can plant the foot and kick the ball through the uprights. That's the only way. If Saquon had the season he had this season last year, he would have won. Lamar's stats were not great. I agree with that. I do 100% agree with that. He's basically Mozzie Smith. He's basically Mozzie. Mozzie has been getting better. Mozzie's been getting better. The whole situation with Mozzie frustrated me. It just frustrated me from the start. It was just basically like, hey, we're going to draft you. Okay, now we're going to change your body. Now we're going to change the style of football you're playing. Okay. Basically what they did with Mozzie Smith was like, hey, we're going to draft 6'5", 235 Mike Evans. But Mike Evans, you're a good player already. You're a first-round prospect, but we actually want you to play like Devontae Smith. So figure that part out, Mike, and get back to us. And when you fail, it's your fault. It's not our fault. And we can cut you, but it's your fault. So that's more or less what happened with Mozzie. That is more or less what happened with Mozzie. And that was just, it's been frustrating for 2 years. Rich, appreciate the super chat. What made you a Vikes fan? And am I an NBA fan? So Vikes fan, my dad grew up during the 70s in that era. And when I was like 6 years old, I made the decision to go with the Vikings. For better or worse, it's been frustrating at times for sure, but that's how I became a Vikings fan. And Am I an NBA fan? I was at a point. The NBA is just, I think the NBA, I could go on like a 5 or 10 minute discussion about this. The NBA is frustrating because I will admit that, I can sit here and talk to you about the Titans right tackle Nicolas Petit-Frere and just how he's given up 40 plus pressures this year and like 9 or 10 sacks, and talk about how frustrating that is and how his technique is poor at times and how he lets guys, get into his chest and he's not consistent with his technique, and you get where I'm going. But I'm a casual NBA fan at best. I'll flip a game on for 10 to 15 minutes at a time, whatever. I've maybe watched like 10 games this year and we're like 2 months in or whatever. It's just an unwatchable product for a fan like myself. I don't like the NBA now. I did 6-7 years ago, but with the NBA Cup, with it being a 3-point contest every night, I mean, the Hornets and Bulls combined missed 75 threes last week, set an all-time record. Nobody wants to watch that. So the NBA, was a fan at a point. I would say I'm really not a fan at this point. Now, I would go to a game. Like, I would go see LeBron play, but that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot just to even go to a game, which is a lot. It's a big financial commitment to go to a game, and you don't know what you're going to see when you get there. You're going to get a 75 missed 3 game, or is this player going to sit? Is that player going to sit there? There's a lot in the NBA right now. Let's see here. Can I start streaming games again? I do plan to stream at least one more game, regular season game for sure. Let's see here. All right. Can the Texans defense carry for a deep playoff run? They're going to need to just continue to throw the ball. Like, they're going to need opposing teams to continue to throw the ball at Derek Stingley like they did last week, like Tua tried last week. That would be pretty much the only way. Although Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter have been incredibly fun to watch this year. But I would say no. I mean, deep playoff run, I'm assuming, is at least AFC Championship game. I just don't think they're going to beat the Ravens, presumably, in the wild card round. And that's, we'll see, though. All right, let's see here. There was a couple comments I wanted to go over. Let's see here. I can see the pain in my eyes from the NBA. It's just frustrating, man. Like, the NBA had a chance to really, go off, and it's just, they didn't. They literally squandered every opportunity. As a Raiders fan, I'm curious if you think AP deserves to be the head coach next season. No. AP's in-game management is just so, it's frustrating. No. It's no. Just you're better off. I mean, they're probably going to go 2-15. I would be shocked if the Raiders, well, maybe 3-14, but no. I would say no. You gave that a shot. You wish him the best. No. I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan, and I would love to see him win MVP or even a ring by the end of his career. I would too. Like I said, I've ordered 2 non-NFL or 2 non-Vikings jerseys in my life, and he is one of them. So absolutely would. Out of Cam Chancellor, Sherm, and Eric Thomas, or Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas is ET's a motivational speaker. I don't know why I said that. Earl Thomas is, sorry. Who's Hall of Fame? I would honestly say all 3. This is going to be maybe a hot take here, but if we are putting, and I know he's like the GOAT at it, but if we are putting Devin Hester in the Hall of Fame for like 20, 25 career plays, maybe 30 career plays, then I think somebody, like, from a sheer impact standpoint, not to dismiss what Devin Hester's doing, but from a sheer impact standpoint, then I think Cam Chancellor deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Sherm is obviously Hall of Fame. I would also say Earl is a definitive Hall of Fame, but Cam doesn't have the All-Pros and the Pro Bowls the way that Earl and Richard do. But I think Cam absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, when you think about teams fearing another player, especially on the defensive side of the football, you might as well just pull up like a dictionary and you'll see Cam Chancellor's picture there. I mean, you'll see Cam Chancellor, you'll see Ray Lewis, you'll see Luke Kuechly for that matter. And then I'm definitely Lawrence Taylor if you want to go back further. And I know I'm forgetting a lot of guys, but you get the point. Like, Cam was the enforcer. Cam deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I will stand by that Cam absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Personally, I'd rather watch football at home than go to the game. Streaming any playoff games. Let's see here. Streaming any playoff games. Maybe. I know for a fact that I will be live after one of the wild card round games for like takeaways from the games. Well, but I don't know if I'm going to be up like that Monday night at like midnight. We'll see. But I definitely will be live after games. If Joey Browner doesn't get in, Chancellor doesn't. Well, the thing is I am not educated to answer the Joey Browner part because I didn't watch him play, although I've had this conversation with my dad. He has said multiple times that Joey Browner deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Also, I would argue that Jim Marshall deserves to be in the Hall of Fame from a Vikings standpoint. But I do think Cam should get in. Like 100, you're welcome. Appreciate it, Dom. Appreciate it. Rich, appreciate the super chat as well. Let's see here. What NFL team has been really bad average-wise last 10 years would you want to see good again for a while? And then he includes Jags, Browns, Panthers, and Raiders. I have, outside of a season or two, keep in mind I'm 26. I obviously don't remember the 2002 Super Bowl Bucks Raiders. I don't remember that. I was 4, so I don't remember that. In my life, I have never seen, my memorable life, I've never seen the Raiders be good. I would like to see the Raiders be a good team. And I don't really include a wild card trip to Cincinnati or a wild card trip to Houston when it was like Connor Cook versus TJ Yates or Connor Cook versus Case Keenum or whoever it was back in 2016. Raiders is what I would want to see. Am I going to stream the Super Bowl? Probably not. Just because I'd like to... If also if the Vikings were in the Super Bowl, just hypothetically, there's no chance. Like I'd be sitting here like, I get into the games. Like I as I feel like I'm calm and collected most of the time, but like when the games are happening, like it's yell at the TV, it's clap, it's a lot. So I'd say probably not. Let's see here. Any big free agents you don't see re-signing with their current team? I would be very surprised if the Chiefs retain guard Trey Smith, when he will probably get paid $21 or $22 million per year, if not more. That's definitely a big one. We might hear unhinged Garrett. You absolutely would. If the Vikings were in the Super Bowl and I streamed, I mean, from a content standpoint, I feel like I'd have to, but it would be like, yeah, man, it would be awesome. I mean, I'd be every play, like it would be. I mean, I'd be sweating on stream. Like I would be sweating on stream, and I'd also be incredibly stressed. There would be very little filter. It would definitely be watch by yourself / not kids in the room, because I'd be like streaming like let's effing go, especially if like JJ scored a touchdown, and if the Vikings were up at a point, yeah, it'd be a lot. All right, is T. Higgins staying with the Bengals or going on the road? I think he's leaving. The Bengals. They're frustrating, but they're also, it's the whole, like the financial part is tough because they have like the least wealthy owner in the league, so it's always difficult. Like I know they've given Joe Burrow contracts, they're going to pay Jamar, but I don't think they're going to pay T. Higgins, and I think it's going to be basically T's going to say, look, I'm 26 years old, I want security, either pay me multiple years or trade me, and I don't think they're going to pay him. So I think T. Higgins is I don't think he's a Bengal next year. Sammy, what's up? What's up, man? How we doing? Long time supporter. Who do you think will win the AFC North at this point? Because if the Steelers lose this week, they still lead the North. I do think the Steelers will. Win the North. I do think they'll win the North. All right. If T leaves the Bengals, will they go Ibuka? That makes sense. That I haven't, to be honest with you, Will, I haven't really thought about it. That's actually the first that I've been asked that specific question. I would say probably not, because I think after this year you have to go defense. So I'd say probably not, although I would love Jamar, Emeka Ibuka, and Joe Burrow in the same offense, but I think after this year you kind of have to go defense. Volcano, another longtime supporter. What do you think the Titans do at quarterback, draft, or free agency? I actually want to pull up the Titans cap space real fast. Let me go ahead and I will get back to that in 1 second. Let's see here. Would want to see Garrett in Houston. What am I doing in Houston? Are you referring to Myles Garrett? Myles Garrett would not go to Houston. They should trade Jamar and Burrow to the Vikings. That's just like I know everybody talks about it, but that's just not. I mean, it would be fun. I'm not going to sit here and act like I wouldn't get excited. But it would be, unfortunately, just not going to happen. All right, let's go to 2025 Titans cap space. They have $63 million, and they can cut Amani Hooker to free up 8 more. They can, who else can they cut here? They're going to cut Kenneth Murray. That's an easy $7.5 million. So they can free up $15 million pretty quickly and be at $78 million. I would probably say Volcano, I'd probably say free agency at this point. And the thing is, the Darnold part worries me. Like, not worries me, but it's just like, I don't know what he's going to get because he's such a wild card. Is in a redraft, is MHJ even a top 10 pick? I say yes. I would say yes. Let me actually think this out. Jaden's going 1 at this point. Drake May is going... this is going to be a hot take. I still think Caleb goes in the top 3 at worst. I still think Caleb goes top 3. Brock Bowers is going to be up there. Brian Thomas. Neighbors, of course. I'm trying to think this out loud here. Verse, definitely. Forgot about Verse. Verse, definitely. Quinion. There's like 7. I would say that MHJ. I would say MHJ. I would say MHJ. That is where I would probably stand on that one. Or I would say yes, he probably would be, is where I would probably stand on that one. Joe Alt, good call. The thing, and Ladd, maybe Ladd, that would be an interesting. See, the thing is like, you start thinking about all of these guys, and then it's like, oh, wait, there's this guy, I forgot about Joe Alt. But yes, I think it would be 10. I think it would be 10 if it would be 10 or 11. Do you think your Vikings Super Bowl window is opening or closing? Definitely opening. Let's see here. Cut Amani Hooker? No, I think they would to free up the money. Or at least restructure, have that conversation with them. That's where I would lean with that. He'll be 27 next year. It would be an interesting conversation because Amani has played really good at earlier points in his career, and he's had a really good year this year. But to be clear, by the way, they wouldn't just cut Amani just to cut him. It would have to be like, we're cutting him to sign Sam Darnold. So I don't think he's in jeopardy of getting cut, if that makes sense. To back that up, Zoe. To back that up. All right, let's see here. Neighbors or MHJ first? I actually think Brian Thomas Jr. would go before both of them, personally. But then I would go Neighbors. Vikings don't feel fraudulent this year? They're not. They are not. Let's see here. Now, are they going to get to the Super Bowl? I'll be honest, Philly scares me. They really, really scare me. But the Vikings definitely not fraudulent. Do you think McDuffie is a top 5 corner in the league? I would say yes. I'm going off the top. I'm not gonna name them because I'm gonna. Oh, you always forget somebody. But I feel like yes. Let's see. You're home from college now, so I should be able to make all your streams. What's up? Appreciate it. I've missed a couple this year. I mean, I appreciate you being here regardless, man. I appreciate you being here. I should stream Packers Vikings. I don't think I can. Weekly recap. Guys, the weekly recap that takes priority. Like, the weekly recap is the number one thing on Sunday. So that was why I streamed on Thanksgiving, because it was like nothing was going on. It was Thanksgiving. It was a holiday. It was, I can just wake up on Friday and finish Saturday's video and then not have to worry about it. So that was why Thanksgiving was nice. Let's see here. I was kind of vibing with, let's see, what did Perna say? Keep Kirk as a backup for a year and ship him out. Best move Atlanta has at the moment, assuming Cousins will play ball with it. Well, Kirk, I feel like definitely would play ball with it. I don't think Kirk's going to be hostile. I mean, he understands it. Kirk of all people knows that it's a business. He of all people knows that the NFL is a business. Let's see here. Is the NFC finally better than most past years? 100%. No, the NFC is here to stay, man. I mean, Detroit's going to be here for a while. Green Bay, not forgetting them again. Green Bay definitely going to be here for a while. Philly, of course, here for a while. Minnesota, I'm under the belief now, and I'm not used to saying this about the Vikings, but as long as they have Kevin O'Connell, I'm not going to doubt this team. So those 4 teams are going to be there. The Bucks are still a very solid team. I'm also not going to doubt the Rams when they have Sean McVay. So 49ers will be back next year. You name it, they had it happen to them this year, unfortunately. The 49ers, they'll be back. I'm also not going to doubt them with Kyle Shanahan and with John Lynch. They have earned that. So the NFC is insane for the future. Hear about the Calais Campbell situation? I did. That was actually pretty cool. So Calais Campbell could be released and basically sign with whatever team he wants to for the postseason. Now, that is a player that I would definitely welcome, because I think the Vikings would love having Calais Campbell. That would be awesome. Minnesota depends on J.J. McCarthy to me. Very fair, but I'm also under the belief, I mean, it's only one preseason game, so it would be silly to say oh, hey, J.J.'s here after a week 1 Raiders preseason game, but I think with under the leadership of O'Connell, with Sam Darnold, with JJ's mental makeup is also like, I am going to outwork everybody no matter what. That's obviously a big part of being an NFL player is, because everybody in the NFL is physically able to make plays. It's a matter of how hard you're willing to work, how hard, you are willing to go the extra mile, and then, of course, being able to mentally process it as a quarterback. But I think JJ's fine. Sam Darnold landing spots next year, I think it's got to be Minnesota or Tennessee is where I would land with that. That's honestly, I think, it. Since you're a Vikings fan, appreciate the super chat, though. Why do the Vikings always have great years with average to below average quarterbacks? Darnold, Keenum, Ponder, Bridgewater. And then the Garf said, put respect on my GOAT, Case Keenum. So, there's just no way to answer this without addressing Kirk Cousins. The thing is that the roster right now has overperformed just by an enormous amount. Andrew Van Ginkel has played at a Pro Bowl level. Jonathan Grenard is legitimately in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Don't think he's going to win it, but he's in the conversation. The corners, Byron Murphy's had a really good year. Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace, both really good. Ivan's missed some time, but they're both really, really good. And Josh Metellus, Cam Bynum, they're all really good. The offensive line for the Vikings is pretty solid. Brian O'Neill, right tackle, is playing at a Pro Bowl level. Cam Robinson has stepped up, has played really well for him. He didn't have a good game against the Bears a couple nights ago, but Justin Jefferson's Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison is, to me, a Pro Bowl caliber receiver. Obviously, he doesn't get the targets as much as he could somewhere else. But to answer that, it's just like everybody steps up, and being able to sign guys, because if the Vikings gave Kirk Cousins $50 million, $45, whatever, they wouldn't have been able to sign Andrew Van Ginkel. They wouldn't have been able to sign Jonathan Grenard and Blake Cashman. So there's three good players right there that they wouldn't have been able to sign in free agency with Kirk Cousins. So that's why. That's a big reason why. Is KOC a lock for Coach of the Year? I think he should be, personally. And I don't think that's biased because, guys, we're talking about a 12-2 team with Sam Darnold. You are lying if you thought that was going to happen. There is nobody that would have thought that would have happened. I was hoping through 7 games this team would be 2-5, and at that point that JJ McCarthy would take over and go from there and see what you have with the rookie. That was my honest hope for the 2024 Vikings. Maybe finish the year 8-9, and they're 12-2. So KOC definitely Coach of the Year. The Defensive Player of the Year is a tough one. I think TJ Watt is the favorite right now. TJ has not had a TJ Watt year. But I think it would be good for TJ to add another DPOY to his resume. Steelers fans especially know that he was definitely robbed a couple times. They know that. But TJ would probably be the pick at this point. Hutch would have won. I do think Hutch 100% would have won. Hutch was just on an unreal pace. He had like 7.5 sacks in like 4.5 games. He had 45 pressures on 198 pass rushing snaps. That it's hard to do that in Madden. So Hutch definitely would have won. Thoughts on how Travis Hunter translates to the NFL? I am very adamant that Travis is going to be a corner with receiver packages. I think there's no way he's going to do both in the NFL. I hate to use it other than it's not going to happen. It's not. There's a difference between learning an NFL playbook and a college playbook. Travis is not going to play both ways in the NFL. I think he'll be corner with maybe 25 to 30 receptions a year is where I would stand on that. Trey Hendrickson, definitely in the conversation. I could agree with that. In the conversation, I would be surprised if he wins it personally, but I definitely think he's in the conversation. All right, appreciate the super chat. Sam Laporta or Brock Bowers? I would personally choose Brock Bowers, but I think Brock is just an unreal talent. This is a hot take for a 21-year-old player. I think he's 22 actually now. But I legitimately think, and I will go on record as saying this, talent-wise, I can't talk about a player's 5 years down the road, but I think Brock Bowers is a Hall of Fame talent. I think when you look at the player he is, the season he's had, he is like the sheer talent level. Again, not talking he's going to be 1,000 reception guy. Nobody can project that type of stuff. But he's every bit on pace, on the level of any season that Travis Kelce's ever had, who was a Hall of Famer. He's up there. He's insane, man. But that has to be, like, you have to understand where I'm going with that take. Like, I'm not saying you understand. This is a civil chat. This is a safe space. So this is, I think Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the league right now. Who is the best defensive end and why is it Crosby? I mean, I like Maxx a lot. Maxx is unfortunately done for the year. This is a great comment here from Legion of Boom. He would have fit in with the Lions mentality. I wanted the Lions to trade 2 first-round picks for him. Bad. Because I thought they trade him, they're going to win the Super Bowl. But the best defensive end, I mean, I'm trying to think. Because this gets a really... If you say that a guy is a defensive end, they will tell you right away, no, TJ Watt is not a defensive end. He's an edge. Maxx is a really, really great player. I like him a lot. I think he is an underappreciated player. I love watching when the Raiders are on primetime, and most of the time my eyes are just on Maxx, seeing what he's doing, seeing what types of chirps he's getting in, seeing just how passionate he is. Maxx is the type of guy you want leading your locker room. He's awesome. I love Maxx Crosby. McMillan, you know what's funny, Marcos? Appreciate the super chat, by the way. When I saw McMillan or Kelvin Banks, I knew where you were going with that. And I didn't have to read the final 5 words, which was to the Patriots in 2025. McMillan or Kelvin Banks? I'm going to give you a couple of answers. Appreciate the super chat. The Patriots have a lot of money in free agency. A lot of money in free agency. They can go sign Ronnie Stanley. They can go sign Cam Robinson. And they can go sign T. Higgins or trade for T. Higgins, whatever the case may be. They can also sign Chris Godwin. I mean, if you think about it, they have $130 million in cap space. We'll say between the draft class, which is roughly 10 to 12 million, we'll say that's 120. And then if you throw in like a contract of a guy that's like a 1 year, 1.9 million and a 1 year, 1.2 million, we'll say they effectively have 100 million in cap space, right? After you take those cuts out, right? If they pay T. Higgins 30 a year, they have 70. You pay Ronnie Stanley maybe 15 a year, you have 55. You pay Cam Robinson maybe another 15, you have 40. You pay Chris Godwin, maybe there's 20 million. And you still have money left over. It's going to be just solely based on what they do in free agency, and I hate to give you that answer. But if I were the general manager, I would do everything I could to bring in T. Higgins. Like T. Higgins, if I was Elliott Wolf, T. Higgins would be a Patriot next year. There is no doubt. Whatever the cost within reason, T. Higgins would be a Patriot. And so would either Chris Godwin or Stephon Diggs. Preferably Chris Godwin. Just because he's a couple years younger. But I would prefer to have Kelvin Banks to the Patriots than I would Tetairoa McMillan. That's where I stand on that one. Playing general manager is fun. It absolutely is. And I love the thoughts of being a GM. Great AG. Saw the chat earlier, or saw the comment earlier, meant to address this. Let me go and talk to here, or answer this here. Thoughts on Bryce's performance against Dallas? Do I think maybe the future for Carolina, or will they move on from him next season? So, Bryce was... I mean, everybody had a bad game against the Cowboys. You're going to have games like that. No team is perfect. There's a reason no team is undefeated right now. Teams are going to have bad games. The Bills could go to the Super Bowl. They lost to the Ravens by 25 points. Teams are going to have bad games. But with what we saw from Bryce Young in the previous couple of game stretch, I think Bryce is going to be the guy next year. I really do. I like Bryce, the strides we've seen. And he is, of course, mentally tough, which is big. And we've seen that, we've seen him go through this season and where he was just beat down. After week 2, they were outscored 73-13. That Chargers game was bad. And I think back to the one play, and if you are a Panthers fan, which I would assume you are, great AG, Bryce takes the ball, he goes out backside, just stands on the sideline for an extra 5 or 10 seconds, doesn't need to, takes an unnecessary sack, and that was the Bryce Young experience prior to the Bryce Young we've seen over the past 5 games. I think they roll with him. That was bad, though. Jags have cap space too. Possible as he goes to Jacksonville. Definitely possible. I also think it's possible that T. Higgins goes to the Titans. I know they just paid Calvin Ridley, but I think it's possible that T. Higgins... There's a lot of places that I think T. Higgins could go. New England is the one where if I were the Patriots GM, even if you have to overpay, you do it. You need to help Drake May as much as you can. I mean, you can't go out there and trot out Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, KJ Osborne, who was cut, Juju Smith-Schuster, who was also cut. You can't trot those guys out there. it's definitely possible T goes to the Jags, although that would surprise me more. Actually, I'm going to say no on that one. And I'm going to say no on that not because of the finance part, but I just don't think they would have Brian Thomas, who's a big boy, Gabe Davis, who's a big boy, and then T. Higgins, who's also a big boy. I don't think they would. So I'm going to say no to that one. Let's see here. GM written all over you. I appreciate that, but that's I appreciate that. We'll just say that. Let's see. It's very unlikely. The Bucs losing one of the Falcons winning out. I would be surprised if the Falcons win out. I'd be surprised. Let's see here. Men of Jacksonville are wealthy. It's pennies. I mean, it's the cap space part. It's also I don't think the GM would want that. Just 3 guys, 6'4" plus. I don't think that would happen. I think there's a higher likelihood the Jags would cut Christian Kirk's contract's complicated. I do know that, but I think there's a higher chance that the Jags would cut, or I think there's a higher chance they would sign Christian Kirk than I do T. Higgins. That is where I would stand on that one. Let's take a look here. I do want to look at the Jags 25 cap space. They have $46 million, and they obviously can't cut a couple of guys. The Jags are not going to. There's no chance for the Jags with T. Higgins. Let's see here. Dolphins keeping Tua or Mike McDaniel? They're definitely keeping Tua. Cut Gabe? What would that look like? What would cutting Gabe? They can't cut Gabe next year. They can't. Unless, hold on. Yeah, they're not cutting Gabe. Trust me when I say they're not going to cut Gabe. And nobody's going to trade for him. So the Jags are, no, they're unfortunately not going to sign T. As a Bengals fan, I'd rather see him in Jacks or New England rather than Tennessee. I think you're going to get your, I know where you want him to stay, obviously, but I think he's going to go to, New England at this point. All right, let's see here. Do I like seeing the Giants GM on that show, and can you believe the access that was given? So whenever that Hard Knocks was released, I kind of said like this, I tweeted this, follow me on Twitter, Football Analysis. I kind of said that this was going to be the only like off-season Hard Knocks we see like this, because there will never be an off-season like that where teams give that type of access again, especially with the Saquon, man. It'd break my heart seeing Saquon, like the owner of the organization, saying it would break my heart, or I couldn't sleep at night, or whatever it was, seeing Saquon in the Eagles uniform and then having him play at an MVP level. I liked it. Yes, to answer that question, I loved it. I loved it. And the access that was given is going to be one and done, in my personal opinion. Ashton Genty to the Bengals would be fun. Again, I just think they're going to go with defense is how I think that one would play out. Chase Brown is underrated. I would also agree with that. Travis Hunter may be a Patriot. Would be surprised. I think right now, Travis Hunter's a Jag. I think that makes a lot of sense for Travis Hunter to go to the Jags. But guys, that is going to wrap up tonight's stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We will be live again Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, week 16 preview. Mark your calendars. Be there. Hope to see you guys Friday, December 20th. And I will catch you guys later. Appreciate everyone being in here. And love you guys. Good night. Have a good one, man. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Yep. Later Gator. Good call on the Later Gator comment. And I will catch you next time. Love you guys.